a number of months ago, I just don't recall when, I asked Donnie Fugit to recapture for me with the best of his ability the original ambassador of the Way Caravan, the one that preceded the first WOWs in the fall of 71, at the time of the Rock of Ages, wasn't it 71? And that previous summer, or the summer of that August, I'd felt in my heart I would like to send out a group of people just to do a test run and simply send them from one area to another and start them out at some difficult places. And I started them out at what I thought was the most difficult place I could think of at the time, and that was Springfield, Missouri. Because that was solidly Assemblies of God, the headquarters up there, Pentecostal, and I just thought it'd be sort of nice to see if we could infiltrate that and what would happen when our people hit the town. And at that time, I asked Donnie Fugit if he would head up the group. And then I wrote letters to all of our advanced class grads, because everybody had to be an advanced class grad, I think, to make it. And then Donnie wrote this up, and I'd very much like to share it tonight because I think it needs to go on the tape and on the film for our people for the future.
In the spring of 1971, Dr. Worrell sent an invitation to all advanced class grads of Power for Abundant Living to be a part of the original and pilot, and in quotes he says, Ambassador of the Way, unquote, Caravan. Responding by a letter to Dr. Worrell, 11 saints accepted from around the country. Each ambassador was sent a letter of acceptance welcoming them, telling them to meet at the fair's home in Wichita, Kansas on June 4. In the letter of acceptance was a set of suggestions of what to bring for ladies and for men. We were told to furnish our own money, only bring one suitcase or a large backpack, and one book, our Bible. Also, Miss Barbara Fair, Dale Fair's daughter, was asked in her letter of acceptance to be coordinator of the women of the Way Caravan. Donnie Fugit was to be the coordinator of the caravan. In his letter of acceptance, he was asked to meet Dr. Worrell at John Townsend's apartment no later than 8 p.m. Thursday, June 3rd. Also in the letter was included a list of all the ambassadors accepted that he would be responsible for. It starts a section called the Planning and Commissioning. The logistics organized by Reverend Townsend were sent to Dr. Worrell, who in turn gave them to Ken Klug to work into detail. The planning and commissioning was all day Friday and part of Saturday, June 4th and 5th at the fair's house. Reverend Townsend was very involved with us during the 2 days. At that time, the ambassadors were split up in 4 teams. Team number 1 was Donnie Fugit and Francie Morse. Team number 2 was Tommy Crabb and Michelle Poore. Team number 3 was Barbara Fair, Jim Halliday, and Sue Wiebers. And that was Team 3. Team 4 was Tina Ranyak, Jack London, and Kathy Uramian. Also, Gerald Wren was present and was instructed on driving and maintaining Dr. Worrell's camper that he let us use for the caravan. He was also to take care of the food and housing for the ambassadors. Each ambassador was given a syllabus put together by Ken Klug. During the planning, we went over each page of the syllabus together in detail. The title page was a map of the eastern half of the United States, with each city circled that we would be going to, beginning in Wichita, connecting each city, and ending in New Knoxville. Page 1 had the ambassador teams and general information. Page 2, a calendar of events, including cities, dates, teams, names of each ambassador, and their assignments, witnessing, classes, follow-up with all the dates. Page 3 had separate instructions and assignments for each team. All of this we covered extensively and in detail with Dr. Werwell and Reverend Townsend. We were given the addresses and phone numbers of the city police departments and a time to meet there. We were instructed to call home, he has in quotes, headquarters, each Sunday from our new location at a specific time, to give our new number to Dr. Werwell, and he has in quotes, the first Sunday we forgot, but we never forgot again. At the end of the week, we were to be at that phone number at a given time. Reverend Townsend acquired AAA traveling maps for the tour and contacted the chief of police for the various towns. Also, each team leader was to keep a diary for his team. Saturday morning, we took care of the details of the cars, gassed up and put on our plastic Ambassador of the Way plates on the side of our cars, and met back for lunch. Then on the front lawn, we all met for a very high and tender commissioning. In the commissioning, all the ambassadors sat in the middle of a circle of many believers from Wichita. Dr. Werwell taught the Word and talked from his heart about his dream that he had for years of Ambassadors of the Way finally happening today. He then prayed for each ambassador individually and sent us off. And starts another section called Touring Ambassadors. We always witnessed beginning on Sundays and ending on Saturdays. All we did basically was witnessed, ate, and slept. In the mornings we would have prayer, manifestations, and believers' meetings, and a little bit of time to study and write in our diaries. Sundays were travel days. June 6th through the 12th, teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 witnessed in Springfield, Missouri. In Springfield we got 2 people interested. The last Saturday night we called in and told Dr. Werwell we didn't have a class, which wasn't very encouraging to him. On the following Sunday morning, Dr. Werwell called us at our campgrounds and told us that we were the best he had, the best the city had ever had, and that they had a chance to hear God's Word. June 13th, we were off, rejoicing, wiping the dust off our feet on our way to Little Rock, Arkansas. We were in Little Rock between June 13th and 19th. Team 3 stayed to run that class, which ran between June 20th and July 2nd. June 20th, teams 1, 2, and 4 left for Greenwood, Mississippi. There, a couple of our women about the middle of the week stayed at a local women's house. The rest of the ambassadors stayed in a historic Civil War park right by the Mississippi River. 2 warships had been sunk about 100 yards from where we were camped. That's a parenthesis. That is the city where all the kids started to drive out to the park to see us. We finally ended up witnessing a lot in a church youth group in town. Most of the PFAL students came from this youth group. Tommy and I would play our guitars, they would sit and listen, and then we all witnessed to them. At one point, a minister came up to us and hassled us about taking his beautiful youth people away, and called our camper a camper of sin. And here's his parentheses on that, because we slept in it to get away from the mosquitoes, of which there were 1,000,001. Probably, meaning guys and girls. He's the guy that prayed that if we weren't of God, then by the end of the week we would be gone. Team 2 stayed there to run their class from June 27th to July 9th. Then teams 1 and 4 went to Birmingham, Alabama. Here's where Gerald Wren and Jack London were dismissed. Randy Anderson, who was presently a member of the 1st Way Corps, replaced Gerald. This was the time period of June 27th to July 3rd. In Birmingham, we ended up teaching a Christian fellowship that was already there, but we were harassed by the adults. The young people were really interested. One night the adults told us to leave and not come back. So the next night we went back to their youth night and started witnessing. The young people were very, very interested, most of them. Then the adults had these big men come and they chased us off. The kids were not sold enough to go with us, with us instead of them yet. Then we went back to the streets in Birmingham and to the college in Birmingham. Out of that witnessing, we got one girl that wasn't even really interested. Teams 1 and 4 left July 4th to go to Atlanta and met Team 3. There we went down to the Haight-Ashbury of Atlanta where all the dope, etc. was. We lived right down in the heart of the city, and day and night were right with the people witnessing and sharing our lives. It was a very hard and calloused area at that time. We encountered a different kind of darkness than the religious darkness that we had encountered previously. I feel we must have at least softened that city for that period of time. Saturday, July 10th, we called Dr. Worrell to tell him that we didn't have a class in that city. He asked me what could we do with ambassadors that it would work better. We agreed that we would need to have ambassadors in a city 6 months to a year in order to really do it. Parentheses, that is how, in part, the WOW Ambassador Program came about. End of parentheses. July 11th, Sunday, we left, must be from Atlanta, Georgia, to Nashville. Teams 1, 3, and 4 met Team 2 in Nashville. And Nashville is where we met Christoph Stope, who is now a member of the 5th Corps, and we witnessed most of the time at the park where all the people hung out. We talked and witnessed to a zillion people in the city. It seems like that is all we did. There were people at the park most of the time, and so were we. We stayed at a KOA camp outside of town. Even though we stayed for one extra day, we still did not get a class together in Nashville. July 19th, we left for International. The night before we left in Nashville, we weren't all that happy until we read 1 Corinthians 15, which crescendoed in verse 58, which says, Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Therefore, Monday morning, July 19th, we left with joy and rejoicing to go back home. And this section is entitled Coming Home. We came home in the middle of Way Family Camp. We met Dr. Worrell out under the apple trees, and we sat out on the front lawn. We didn't say much. Dr. Worrell did share his heart and love with us. We were very blessed. Then we went out to the woods where the campers were all meeting, and we just moved in and became a part of summer school, in which we didn't have to register nor pay because the Way paid our bill. We stayed the last 2 weeks in August for the advanced class and for the original Rock of Ages, for the commissioning of the first wave of WOW ambassadors. Conclusion. This tour, I know for me, and I think I can speak for the rest of us, was the richest and most challenging experience of our lives to this point. We all felt so privileged and joyed to be a part of it and go out and hold forth God's Word in such a dynamic, wonderful, and life-filled journey. We learned things about life in the ministry that could have been learned, I feel, in no other way. I know this will live joyfully in our hearts and memories as long as we live. Written by Donnie Fugit.